We're on. Boys and girls, welcome back to an interview I'm very excited for. We have Josh and Joel. How are you boys going?
Good. Very good. Very good to be here.
And you guys have been instrumental in the events over the past few days on the weekend surrounding the Christian Democratic Party.
Yes.
Now, people might have seen a few headlines, a few little news clips, a few tweets from some characters, including Miranda Devine. But Samraat said, he sent me a message, Josh, he also goes by, said, it'll be nice today to talk to a friendly camera. And so after these developments, he's been in the media, Joel's been involved, and so I want to hear from you guys, what are the developments that have happened and what's been going on the past couple of days?
Well, a lot. So, State Council. So in every party is a State Council meeting where members come and they vote on all sorts of issues. So on the 1st of June, for last Saturday, the CDP had a State Council like always. And the chairperson opened with prayer, and there was no conference motion as soon as he concluded. The motion was seconded, he ruled out of order, and there was a motion of dissent raised. And so just so everyone understands what that is.
There's a lot of people who don't understand, including me.
So we start with no confidence motion. So
no
confidence motion is simply the party membership doesn't feel confident that the board can do its job.
Right.
And if that passes, the board gets that.
Right. And so who are the board? What does the board do? What's their role in the party?
Board, they essentially make the big political decisions on behalf of the membership. So membership elects the board to represent them and make all the choices on their behalf.
Yeah.
And that's what they're meant to do. So make choices in the interest of the party, for the benefit of the party, but not out of self-interest.
Mm.
And so no conference motion was to dissolve the board, and that was seconded, and the chairperson and president of the party ruled out of order. And that's in his right to do that. He's a chairperson, he can say,
So out of order means?
That was whatever the chair wants it to mean. So
right.
Basically, the chair says, I don't like the motion, I'm ruling out of order.
Okay.
And if he does that, I believe the Incorporated Associations Act 2009 outlines certain rules regarding not-for-profit meeting procedures. And if something like that's ruled out of order, members can then move a motion of dissent, which is to challenge the chairperson's ruling. And if that's seconded, then it becomes a legal matter.
Yeah.
So that the chairperson then has to step aside, and the party has to then nominate a temporary chairperson until that ruling's discussed and voted upon. And of course, so we did that. We moved a motion of dissent, challenging his out of order ruling. It was seconded, and what do you know? He ruled out of order too.
Right.
At that point, everyone in the room just kind of froze a bit, because you had their side not knowing what the heck's going on. Then you had the people who supported us kind of wondering how the chairperson can just completely go against the legal proceeding. And so there was a couple of moments of silence, and then it kind of broke out until everyone just that's legal, no that's legal, no that's legal. And what it ended with was the chair saying aye during the meeting, and he just kind of marched out with 15 to 20 members.
Okay.
And so what then happened was 35 members stayed. They voted to continue the meeting. It was seconded. We nominated a temporary chairperson, temporary secretary to chair the meeting and to take minutes. We went back to the motion of dissent. That was passed. We went back to the no conference motion. That was passed. Then moved a motion after lots of discussion and debate to establish a special committee to investigate the party's internal issues. That was passed. We took nominations of the floor. That was passed. We got 5 committee members, and then the State Council came to a close.
Okay.
It was all very civilised.
A lot of stuff we covered there.
Yeah.
2 questions. The first is for Josh. Who's the chairperson who we're dealing with? And who's in the? Are there any key players in the board that the viewers at home need to know, or not really?
Yeah. So there are 2 key players. The first is the chairperson and state president Ross Clifford, principal of Moreland College, and I believe a reverend also in the Baptist Church. And the second player, whose status on the board is kind of wavy at the moment, is Paul Green, the former MLC, now House for the CDP.
Right.
So from my understanding, Ross on the board, from what I've heard from the members, his position there is just kind of to secure his future as a member of parliament taking Fred's seat. Yeah. So as Fred announced in his press conference yesterday, Reverend Fred Nile, he said that he will nominate Ross as nominate Ross as his successor, and that's why Ross is so determined to be on the board to keep that kind of deal going on. And Paul Green's on the board. Actually, he's on the board based on the fact that he was a member of Parliament, and the president didn't really want to tell him he's on the board anymore. That's why Paul was on there. And from my understanding, Paul Green wanted to also roll the board to become the state president and put someone else as state director and hopefully take Fred's seat. That's what the power plays were happening. And so what we did was essentially get rid of all that, just sack the entire board, and put the process to a vote by the membership to increase transparency and restore the party's internal processes.
Okay, huge. Well, before we go in and talk about what actually happened in the party, which led to the no confidence and people being dissolved and the board being a bit topsy-turvy, Joel, what was your role in this? Because I did see you on Facebook giving a little public speaking speech, a little rabble-rousing appeal to the membership. It was. I thought it was quite good.
Cheers. Look, it was just I was the one that put the motion forward, and I think we'll as we get into this about what the fake news and how they've been sort of reporting this.
Damn fake news.
Damn fake news. What can you do?
Fake news.
Well, this is why we need people like you do to go around it.
You're too nice.
Exactly, and hold us accountable as well. So with I was the one that put the motion forward of no confidence. I'm not the disgruntled employee that's in all the articles that comes up as Samraat, who's they say is correct me if I'm wrong, a disgruntled ex-employee or something like that. It was me that put it forward. A lot of issues start with an Arab, and
no different.
Exactly. There you go. And look, it just wasn't respected. And as Samraat said, that was something he backed me up on, and we saw it through. And the lovely young lady that was seconding our motions wasn't backing down as well. Neither were the 35 members that were with us. And so Samraat and I, we've been trying to work this out. We've been helping each other and advising each other on how best to proceed, how best to prepare for this meeting, because it's not the first time this has been unsuccessfully achieved by other people. We see this, of course, as a successful attempt, and unfortunately, it shouldn't have been left to us to do it. There were a lot older, a lot more experienced, a lot wiser people who have failed at this in the past, and we're incredibly happy with the gains that we've made.
So just for the people, you've turned the party a little bit upside down. There's a lot of well-established people in that party. Just for maybe interest at home, how old are each of you?
18.
18. 22, right? So you got a few young guns in here. Very interesting. So the results, and I do want to get to what actually led to this, but in terms of the results, you've had the old guard kind of on the way out, and you've elected a few new officials, and I think, well, you guys are among them, right?
Yeah.
So what's your roles now in the CDP?
So there's a directional committee that was democratically elected by the members. I'm the chair of that committee. Joel's also on the committee. And we have 3 other members. And in contrary to what the media is saying, it isn't like a rebel youth group. The other members are, I believe, 35 and 60. So there are a vast age range of members on this committee to advise us.
And they were all voted on the day. All 35 members present were signed on to this, and they knew what they were voting for.
Okay, and so what's the job of this 5-person committee?
So the committee's primary role of the committee is to investigate the party's internal issues, so what led to the no confidence motion, the various party breaches, issues with the constitution, and where the party's kind of headed in the future as well. So it's essentially, as described by the state director, almost like an interim board until a new board is elected at the October State Convention. Okay, so the October State Convention is when people can expect a new board. Yeah.
Do you guys want to be on that board?
No.
No, we have no. We had a meeting last night with the people who were elected to this temporary committee, who have been empowered for the next 3 months to do what Samraat said, to investigate these issues. Not one of us intend on this happening. Many of the people that were elected on the day had no plans of staying on the board. They were thrust into it, But we're very, very glad they've agreed to it, because I think that adds to the credibility of their intentions and what we're trying to do. We don't want to stay on for it. Yeah.
Now, you might not be able to answer this question, but what type of stuff are you actually going to be looking at as that temporary committee over the next few months until October?
So, in terms of internal party issues, one of the things, this is on public record, that we're looking at are things like board members' involvements in party breaches, such as in 2015 during the election campaign. Then there was a large transfer of money from an office account to the federal campaign account, or state federal campaign account, and that's caused the party to narrowly miss a Supreme Court prosecution, and members of the board knew that was illegal and they did it anyway. And so that's one example, and the penalty for that is I think it's a 2-year jail sentence, and so members of the board narrowly escaped that as well. And so it's those kind of issues that have been rattling through the party for the last decade that we're going to investigate. So board members' involvements in various breaches of regulation, and whether or not they knew what they were doing, and that was against the law.
Now these developments have come after what I understand to be an underwhelming election result for the CDP, and that probably threw some support in your corner for some reform. Do you think internal issues contributed to that election result?
Absolutely. I mean, it's many people in the party, from what I've heard, didn't want Savannah as lead Senate candidate. I believe there were about less than 15 people in the room during her nomination, her pre-selection.
Right. She was the Senate.
Yep, lead Senate candidate for the most recent federal election. It's that kind of small group making decisions mindset, and only as the board kind of pushing onto the members of what they want. For example, at the state convention last year, what's meant to happen in a political party is that you have a convention where you vote on board members. So you nominate someone and you vote on it. What the board did last year was they themselves said, okay, here are the board members you're going to vote on. We just want you to ratify it. And so that's the kind of processes that they're kind of subverting to keep their own interests.
Okay, very interesting. So we've touched on it a little bit, but why don't you run us through some of the key events or key happenings which caused you and other people to start losing faith in the board and the people who are running the party?
The most recent one, really. So political parties have something called a party agent, right? They look after electoral expenditure, party budgets, and they're like the lawyer of the party. And our party agent, Philip Gerber, from my understanding, is employed by the state president separately, and does stuff in Walling College, where the state president's the principal. And so he was nominated and selected to be the party agent, which creates the first conflict of interest, right? So you've got a party agent who tells the party what laws are and where the party stands on certain issues, and that party agent is employed by the state president separately somewhere else. So you've got to kind of think, okay, if there's an issue that threatens the president, is the party agent going to give the proper advice, or kind of give advice that benefits him so he doesn't lose his job over there? And that's the first kind of conflict that we've seen that's kind of prompted this even more. And there's a whole array of issues, accusations of nepotism, of just general incompetence in the board. Like, for example, the role of the president of the party is to set a vision and to govern the party based on what members want it to be like. So, be involved in the media, be involved pushing campaigns, be involved in trying to encourage members to recruit and encourage candidates. And our president, he didn't do any of that. He just sat at a board, gave us a little preaching before state council, and that was it. He would just disappear. He would, out of the shadows, he would emerge once a month, give a great Baptist sermon, and then disappear again in the shadows. And that was the kind of way he worked. And whenever there was an issue in a party, he would kind of step back and be like, oh, I'm not involved with this, just you just solve those issues yourself. Whenever there was a question asked to him about certain issues, he would just deflect it, and like a lightsaber, he's just a Jedi, just shoot him from all angles and just deflects it all. And that's the kind of leadership we're trying to get rid of, is leadership that doesn't care about the party or their own interests.
All right, we had a quick intermission, took a few important calls, talked to a few lawyers, a few important people, a few of the people running the world, and now we're going to be back. And you're just about to tell us what's really important to remember.
Yes. So the party agent, Philip Gerber, he used to come in the office a lot every now and then when I was employed by the party to speak with the state director. I used to ask him various questions about regulations, etc. And he told me that if, just out of curiosity, I was asking about motions and how those pass the state council. And he told me that if there was no conference motion on the board and it was seconded and passed, and that's just it. That's just how it goes. And then recently on Twitter, he tweeted saying, that no conference motion was out of order, illegal, you can't do that, so it's interesting to see the party agent kind of almost backflipping on what he said before and just changing his legal advice.
Okay, well, we don't have Phil in the studio. It'd be nice to talk to
Can
him.
you bring him up?
Now,
hey,
what's
Phil.
Phil? How you going? But feel free to drop us a comment, Phil. Tell us what you think. Now, what's the so the current board people, the people who were on the board, what are they doing now?
So Fred is doing Fred.
Let's talk about Fred.
In Parliament, doing what he does. I don't know what that is. He doesn't really inform us much about that. So he's doing what Fred does. Ross, on the other hand, is, as I said, just full Jedi mode, deflecting, making up some random stuff to try and defend his position, trying to pin it on me as a disgruntled employee, making it personal, saying it's an attack against Fred. And that's what he's doing. So they're not taking it seriously for some reason. And I don't think they realise that this isn't simply a youth rebel movement. It's not some random teenagers just moving motions, that there are lawyers behind this. And there are laws behind this and legal processes behind this. And there will be a case presented within the next couple of days that will challenge what they've said. It will make them look absolutely stupid. At Fred's press conference, Ross was quoted as saying, it's all business as usual, nothing's gone on, it's just, nothing happened. And when we get contra advice to that, when we have lawyers say, actually, this law says otherwise, it'll be interesting to see how he deflects that. Right.
Okay.
So that's where we're at the moment.
Looking forward to it. So I'm still a bit unclear. Do those guys, are they still in the job or not?
No. So at the moment, the media is portraying them as kind of there, kind of not there. The party membership has no idea what's going on. They're just who's in charge now. So officially, in a sense, the party is under the administration of the state director. So in the absence of the board or the committee, the state director just controls the party funds and the party administration at the moment. So that's where it's at the moment.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about Fred. Fred, I understand, is a big personality in the CDP, and I'm not very familiar with the CDP or with Fred.
Yeah.
But you've tweeted, I think, a little bit about him, made like Facebook post regarding, I think, Fred and the fake news that's been surrounding the events. Why don't you give us your take on both Fred and the fake news?
So I'll give you the fake news first. So what the media is saying is that I've seized power of the party. I've taken absolute control. I am the state council.
I am the Senate.
I'm the Senate.
And that I'm vying for Fred's seat. So one of the questions they asked me, I think, I don't remember which news channel it was. They asked if I intended to take his seat. No.
Channel 7. That was.
It was Channel 7.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I don't. And that's the media they're pushing. That's the story they're pushing. Is that this is a young, teenager trying to take over the party, get Fred's seat, and is just angry, really, and that this is all targeted Fred. And what's really going on is it is an angry teenager, but an angry membership as well, and an angry Australia behind that, an angry and ineffective board, an incompetent chair, and an incompetent president. And that's what it's about. It's not about Fred.
Yeah.
He just happens to be on the board that we believe is incompetent, and that's why he's been sacked with the board.
Did you want to say anything, Joel?
Yeah, look, we're not into, I think if anything's demonstrated from our interviews, we're not into ad hominem attacks. We're not interested in that. We're not interested in power. We're merely interested in upholding what we're seeing from the base of the Christian vote. We're finding we've come into a party where we've been, you've been a member for a couple of years now, you know exactly what's going on. They're not happy with what's going on. They're not happy with their so-called leaders who have led them down this path where they've broken multiple AEC regulations. As a result, many people have tried to stop them. They have failed. We just happened to come in at a time where no one else wanted to stand up. That's why we're so young, because it shouldn't be us. Everything says it shouldn't be us, but it is us. We've been empowered from this council, from this meeting that we had on Saturday to change it, and it's as simple as that. None of us want to stay on. This is not an attack against Fred Null. He's made a significant contribution to the Parliament, the New South Wales State Parliament, the longest serving member, correct me if I'm wrong, but he should have honoured his promise on 3 occasions where he said he'd resign, and he has not done that, and many of the members know that, and they're not happy with him. So change has to come in order for this party to continue, and we did that following the legal steps on the weekend, and it tried to be silenced. And I always decide to err on the side of more speech, more freedom, more discussion, rather than shutting it down and calling the meeting adjourned. Why not discuss it? And I think you see that in the video that you mentioned last night, where you see this young lady get up wearing red, and she says, the reason I hung around was because I saw that they were trying to shut down what was going on here. Well, I wanted to stay, and I'm glad I stayed because I saw what you guys are doing, and she seemed shocked. And she ended up voting in support of this committee for the next 3 months to investigate these errors. And I don't see any harm that could come from this. If nothing comes from this, then they've got nothing to worry about. But they're doing everything to the contrary, and we're not going after, we're not targeting anyone, we're targeting the crimes which are being committed right here. So
okay, very interesting. So where does the CDP go? What's your vision for the CDP? Not necessarily that you'll be in control of it, but what would you like to see the CDP develop into? Because it seemed like quite unpopular at the last election.
So I think we do have our own ideas of where we would like it to go, and we would suggest to members. But ultimately, what this is about giving the members the opportunity to voice where they think the party should go. Because for the past 30 years, it's just been top-down dictation of what the party will do, what the party policy will be, and where the party will go. And so we want to ask members, get their suggestions, provide them with all the options, and say, here you are, you can have a vote and be informed about all the options and make the decisions yourselves. So it's not imposed upon you from the top because of self-interest, because we want to sit in Parliament or something, or because we're trying to hide crimes we've committed. It's about the members having a say, and the members having the last say in the situation.
Well, that is some of the arguments made, from what I understand it, for the democratisation of the New South Wales Liberal Party, where people are fed up with some of the people at the top, some would argue factional bosses. But what issues? I want to get more to a bit of the party philosophy and a bit more where the party stands on issues. What are the issues that you think the CDP is strong on and that they care about, and on which they could contribute to the kind of national debate?
So
the membership, I assume we're talking about.
Sure, the whole party.
Policy platform.
Yeah.
What people have to remember, and this is the issue that that Paul Green had, and much of the board, when they talk about party policy, the only effect minor parties have in Parliament is on social policy, not economic policy. So what the party has done in the past is brag about the economic economic benefits New South Wales has had since we've had members elected in Parliament, which weren't caused by us, they were just caused by us participating in votes by the Liberal Party. And what the party has neglected to do is focus on the social issues we've had impact on. For example, there was a move a couple of years back to change church zoning and restrict it only industrial areas. And now the party was significant behind the move to protect church zoning. But we didn't advertise that. We advertised the fact that we voted with the Liberals about some power line issue. And that's another thing the members are trying to fight against. And so the party's strongest is on those social issues, protecting conservative Christian values in the Parliament and having a Christian input in laws passed by the government. And that's where minor parties really reign supreme, and the party has been capitalising on that.
Right. So if you could just give a quick fire on some of the issues, some of the social issues which you'd like to see the CDP contributing to.
Well, I mean, there's abortion, there's
religious freedom,
euthanasia, freedom of speech, and that's religious freedom for our Muslim brothers and sisters as well. Let's not forget that, and that is on recording in front of that audience on Saturday night. That's just to rattle off a few.
And also, it's not just explicitly social policy, like this is religious freedom, but also implementing social policies into other regulations and laws. For example, if the government's moving to sell some power company or some power station, having compassionate amendments there to have the people working there keep the jobs for another year or two so they can have time to find other working places, and also things like that. So it's not just pushing for overtly conservative values, but also having those values implemented in other parliamentary policies.
Well, talking about religious freedom of speech, did members of the CDP have any particular feeling towards Israel Folau and his comments and the way he's been treated by Australian Rugby Union and the media in general?
Complex issue.
I
mean, the content isn't wrong, but the way he said it can be questioned. But then you've got the issue of, when you talk about religious freedom and freedom of speech, does that apply to every individual, as in you can't impede on his freedom of speech, or that private company can't bar that person from saying something? Or does that apply to the government only, so only the government can't impede on freedom of speech? And so it comes down to that kind of question, what you value. So it's a hard issue.
For sure.
Personally, my knee-jerk reaction is there's just a range of issues. My knee-jerk reaction is to say, back him. This is a free speech issue. It doesn't matter what religion they're from. They have the right, as long as they're not inciting violence, to say whatever the hell they want. Then they get into the issue of contract law. You can look at it from Rugby Australia as a private company. Now that's something I'm just ill-informed about. And I've only followed it from the American perspective, with the kneeling during the national anthem over there during games and all that. It is obviously a complex issue, but I think a lot of the Christians in Australia, especially some of the significant organisations, are tackling it from the perspective of, but Israel Folau is not only from, is it the Torres Strait Islanders?
Yeah.
He's not only a part of that, but he's also a religious group, because Christianity has been merged with the Torres Strait Islander identity. So it actually comes under the racial discrimination. So it gets even more complicated. So that's one way of looking at it. But another way for us Christians, because this is one of the social issues we talk about, it's even more divided. You see a lot of people, they just they don't see it that way. They see Christianity, Christians and Christianity. What Israel Folau said, it didn't represent their view on Christianity and Jesus' teachings. I beg to differ. I think if you look at the full, once again, the fake news, the way they reported it, they took a snippet of what he said. They completely missed what he said beforehand, saying how he was saying something along the lines of, I hope that many of these homosexuals will come to know the love of Jesus Christ. So it sort of implied to me, this is coming from a good place. This is coming from, he truly believes that this way of living is wrong, that it's not to the benefit of those people, and he's hoping for a better way from them. He wasn't enforcing anything. He was in a private location, in his family church, and I think it was wrong that. So you can look at it from many different perspectives. So I don't have a solid view on it. But as I said, my knee-jerk reaction is a free speech issue. Now,
I guess that the natural, I guess I have a natural feeling that one of the things the Christian Democratic Party would like to do is see Christianity flourish and kind of promote Christianity, spread Christianity. What do you guys see as the value of Christianity in Australia today? And where do you guys kind of see the state of Christianity? Do you think it's improving and developing and contributing, or do you think it might be on the decline?
I think Mark Latham put it best in his maiden speech in Parliament, when he talked about, Christianity kind of being the foundation of Australia. So it doesn't matter if we have everyone's a Christian in the country, everyone subscribes to the religion, but if you don't have a Christian foundation, this country kind of falls apart. I think Mark Zimmerman did a report a couple years back for the Western Australian Jurist. It's called, I think it was the Christian Commonwealth of Australia. And we did a report about how Christianity is so intertwined with Australia's constitutional law that if you take all the Christians out of the country, it just it collapses, because the value system is based on a religious system. So you can't really separate the two. So this country can never be a Muslim country, it can never be a Hindu country. It doesn't need to be a majority Christian country, but at its core it has to remain Christian, because that's what its constitution, its laws are based on. We have the Parliament opens with a prayer, a Christian prayer. The preambles of all the state constitutions have acknowledgement of God, and that's an echo of early Australia being so rooted in a certain set of values that align only with Christianity and no other religion.
What do you think those values are?
So, equality of man, that's one of the biggest values. The fact that every person is equal under law and under God. Other religions don't really subscribe to that. There's, in Islam, women are worth less than men in some instances. In Hinduism, you have the caste system. There's all those issues in those cultures which are intertwined with their religion. You can't separate their culture and religion. And another value is the rule of law. The idea that that there is a government set up in this country, and give to Caesar what is Caesar. You have to obey the laws of the country, and not keep toppling everything over whenever you feel like it, and set up your own Sharia courts, or set up your own pagan town or county, or whatever people do nowadays. And so those are kind of the two foundational aspects: the rule of law, the equality of man, and lastly would be religious freedom. That was pushed during the Protestant Reformation. After the Treaty of Westphalia, when the Holy Roman Empire kind of almost imploded between a war with the Catholics and Protestants, and they came to the agreement that we should respect people's choice of religion and allow them to freely practice it, and not have state religion and impose it on people. And that the whole separation of church and state is a foundation established by Christianity. And so that's very important to Australia as well.
I'm educated on this. I watched a bit from Stephen Shavura, who's a excellent I think lecturer and professor at Macquarie University. He teaches philosophy. And from a historian perspective, he says Australia doesn't necessarily have a separation of churches and state as America may have. And I don't want to mischaracterize what he says, but my understanding is that when in our constitution where it says there's a separation of church and state, it's referring to, or that we have a secular sort of government, it's referring to funding towards the churches. It's not referring to where we get our morality from, because morality is how it's where we get it from, is how we govern and how we create our laws. And where else are you going to get it from? I've seen hundreds of hours of debates, whether that be between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, where Jordan Peterson says, no, you can't just get rid of what we get, all that we learn from Christianity. You can't get that just from facts and science. You need to ground it in something. And whether that's from divine revelation, as Christianity proposes to have, and as we believe, and then that's the way to go. But we definitely didn't get it from the Enlightenment, that's for sure. And a lot of the things we enjoy today, a lot of the rights are from Christianity. History, people just don't know their history, so they don't know that.
Okay. I think there's probably some discussions to be had about the contributions to morality from Christianity. I think we all probably benefit a lot from that. I do think it's hard to replicate the value that all men are made in the image of God. I think that's hard to replicate in science and enlightenment morality. But nonetheless, I think we can have a religious discussion for another day. I had a great one with Josh after the election live stream. And if you want to see more of these boys, we got 6 hours and 36 minutes of it. If you want to go and check out that other video, I'll put a link in the description. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish up with a few housekeeping announcements?
Well, I guess it'll just be that what's happened with CDP isn't over yet. You know, Ross, the old board, might say it's all settled, done and dusted, but there is a legal case you presented, and there are many more skeletons in the closet. I'm just being made aware of as we speak. People are texting about various reports and crimes that they're now reporting to the Electoral Commission regarding members of the previous board. And so that will come to light later in the coming weeks too.
Okay, coming weeks. That's when we can expect developments?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. Now, where can people find these developments and where can people follow you guys?
So you can find, I'll be uploading, I think this video, you'll give me a copy to my YouTube channel, Jammal. You can follow me on Facebook. I make my posts public, so I've got nothing to hide. And on Twitter, I think Samraat, have you got an account?
And I've got an official Facebook page that you'll tag.
I will. You'll be able to find everything in the description. Thanks for being with us in the Carnage house. It's been very fun. Hope to bring you some more updates as we go, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So if you like what you saw, feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment. We'd be keen to hear what you thought about CDP, the recent developments. I'm sure these boys would love to hear as well. So we will see you shortly, and thanks for being with us.
Awesome. Cheers for this, Dougal.
No problem.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.